Anyway, I'm really quite thrilled to have you here, and certainly really happy to share the stage with you. So first of all, give yourselves a round of applause for getting here 2 or 3 days after Thanksgiving. Let me say to the policymakers, to the business leaders in the audience, we are exceptionally grateful to you for your efforts to make New Jersey a vibrant and strong state. And of course, to Michelle and NJBIA for bringing us together to have what sometimes are really, really tough conversations around public policy. So give Michelle and her team a round of applause. So Bruce, as I mentioned, I'm actually thrilled to be here as an ex-banker. So first of all, congratulations. I think it was investors and citizens came together, was it May or April of this year?
Early April, yep.
April of this year. As an ex-banker who's actually been through 5 different mergers, that is huge. And you are now, after bringing the 2 companies together, not just a Mid-Atlantic, not just a New England, but now you are now the 13th largest financial institution in the entire country with $225 billion in assets. That deserves a round of applause. So talk a little bit, I think we're all a bit intrigued about how New Jersey and how your expansion strategy brought you to this area and how New Jersey actually factored in to the overall calculus.
Sure. So let me start out by saying that I'm a Jersey guy through and through. Okay. So I grew up in Pompton Plains, New Jersey. And I live in Ridgewood, New Jersey today. We have a summer home on Long Beach Island. So I know New Jersey. So okay. I've been running a bank that's headquartered in Providence, Rhode Island, but okay. I still maintain my home here. And I do the circuit. I go up to New England every week and make it work. But in any case, we spun off from RBS, a big UK-based institution, in 2014. I came back from London and I took, Citizens public. And what we had to do was a lot of work because the parent had some struggles. And so we had to really transform Citizens and make a lot of catch-up investments and refine our business model, bring in new talent, new leaders, et cetera. So that's all gone quite well. But I'd say we always had this gleam in our eye that if we wanted to be a strong Northeastern-focused institution, that we couldn't have that hole in the donut between New England and then picking up Mid-Atlantic down in the Philly suburbs of New Jersey. We had to find a way to get into the New York metro region, including New Jersey. So it just happened in last year in 2021 that HSBC put their East Coast branches up for sale. And that was a very strong retail deposit base, but it didn't have kind of a full complement of business activities. And so then we wanted to pair that with something else once we secured that and quickly had conversations with investors and got a deal done with investors. And so what we garnered with investors was a much broader franchise that had a corporate presence, commercial real estate presence, small business services, and additional branches. The combination of the two gave us 100 branches in the New York metro region, 200 overall through New Jersey. When you look at the whole footprint, top 10 deposit market share in the region, and almost 1 million new customers. So our view was like, this is the perfect market for us because it's emblematic of what you find in the Northeast. You've got a highly educated workforce, very high level of affluence, so sophisticated customers who have needs, that we've developed solutions for. And you've got a great demographic of business activity. You've got companies of all shapes and sizes, service companies, manufacturing companies, all up and down the size spectrum. And we have solutions for serving those companies as well. So we inherit a great base of talent and relationships with investors in HSBC, but we bring additional solutions to the mix. So we have kind of some very sophisticated technology solutions, and broader product capability, bigger balance sheets. So we think we can take that foundation and take it to the next level. And the last thing I would say is there's no shortage of banks. There's a shortage of banks who really do it well, who really focus on their customers and making their customers more successful, which has been our secret ingredient wherever we're competing around our footprint. And we go up against all comers. We go up against the biggest banks, we go up against the local banks, and we're successful because of that intense focus on making our customers more successful. We're here. So interestingly, HSBC, we had to convert that and close that back in February. So they're fully part of the way we do business. Investors is a little bit in an in-between state because we've done some conversions and their people are working for us, but the main systems conversion, which you know happened, that happens in February. So the signage hasn't fully converted over and all of the systems haven't converted over. That's still a couple months away. So stay tuned. You're going to see some really great things that'll happen after that conversion, and we'll bring some new exciting offers and capabilities into the market, and you'll see the signage switch over to Citizens. But it's a work in progress, but so far everything's on track and we're very excited about the progress that we're making. Yeah. Well, I think interestingly, every episode there's economic events that happen, the great financial recession, and then the pandemic linked recession. They're all fundamentally different, and the key is to learn from them and prove your resiliency, and then come out and put some of the lessons that you've learned to work. So when I look at this past recession, there were massive shifts in how individuals wanted to do business. They had to force themselves to use digital tools to get things done when they were locked up and the economy was shut down. And so that preference for convenience, more digital, companies needing to satisfy that and shift their business models in that direction, use of data to make personalized offers and really get to know your customers through digital channels. That was a big shift. And then people's desire to work with more flexibility once they learned that they could be productive working from home. It's been a little tough to coax people to kind of get back into the office basis. So there's a lot of things that came out of the pandemic that we're still working on and contending with. And there's a need for new job skills. If the business environment's moving more digital, then you need more, digital engineers. You need more coders. You need different types of skills. So this is going to take a sustained effort to upskill people and position the economy kind of on the new footing and in direction that it's heading. The other thing I'd say is, it's clear with 2020 hindsight that everybody in Washington was doing their best to try to contend with an unprecedented situation, but there was too much fiscal, there was too much monetary with the benefit of 2020 hindsight. And so now the kind of folks in Washington are starting to take the punch bowl away and say, okay, so we have clearly fueled inflation. We have to rein that back in at this point. And the Fed is raising interest rates very aggressively, which is starting to have an impact in terms of slowing down the economy. You can see consumer spending is starting to slow. Certain sectors in the economy, like the mortgage sector, very, very slow. Housing has slowed down. So we're going to feel the results of that. I think we're already feeling it. It's going to be kind of a tough year. I think it's either slow growth or kind of shallow to moderate recession. Looks like it's in the offing. So we need to prepare for that. And I would say here in New Jersey, making sure that we're still focused on workforce development and upskilling people so that they can face the future with confidence is important. And then I'd say to some of the legislators in the room, it's important that we try to keep the burdens on companies kind of modest as you go through this period of don't raise taxes again, sunset taxes that were put in as surcharges, et cetera, et cetera. Try not to add too many burdensome regulations because folks go through the storm. They need to have some maneuverability in order to get through it and come out on the other side. Well,
What do
I
we
would,
do
I
from
would
here?
just go back a little bit on the pandemic and look at how state, local, federal government businesses really rallied behind the business community, small business in particular, with the PPP program. We worked exceptionally hard to make sure that our customers had access to that funding, and the calls of anguish that I personally received. I've never had more in any episode in my career, because small business folks, they feel like their business, the people who work for them are like family, and they know everybody who works for them. They know the family situations, the stresses, and they take that all personally. So it was very personal that they needed to get the funding to kind of make it through. So I think that was a really great period where the elected officials and businesses rose to the occasion to help people get through. And it was a very anxious period for folks. Having said that, when you look now that we've come out of it and the economy started growing again, a lot of businesses took their lessons from the pandemic and they shifted their business models to be more digital. If you were a restaurant, you had to have a takeout capability, which now you've been able to sustain. So you've shifted the business model to take into account the new realities of consumer preferences. You leaned your expenses to some extent, and you tried to conserve cash, that some of the funding that came in. So we find that actually many of our businesses are in very solid condition. They're contending with supply chain issues or the war for talent, getting talent into their businesses, but they're doing okay. They're managing okay. And then many individuals, if we look at the savings that people built up during the pandemic, forced savings if they couldn't go out and buy things, or a lot of the government transfer payments stayed in people's accounts. They didn't spend it down very quickly. The consumer also seems in pretty good shape. They're not overextended from a debt standpoint, and they've been fairly prudent going through this whole period. So the question as to how bad a recession could we have, given the fact that commercial customers seem in pretty good shape and the consumer still sees in pretty good shape, I think we'll make it through kind of without huge impact. It won't feel like the Great Recession in 2008. I think it'll be more traditional recession that's shallow and short. The most important thing to me is to get inflation under control, because that's an insidious problem that affects everybody. And if the cost of that is to slow down the economy and inflation ticks up, 1% or something, it's certainly harmful to the 1%, but again, inflation affects 100%, and certainly the people at the lower income levels the most. So I think the Fed is on the right path here to do that, and folks like in New Jersey, as I mentioned before, I think preparing people for better skills so they can find employment in the way things are going. Also keeping taxes under control as we go through this period. Those are really important. And then using some of the funding. I mean, Michelle mentioned in her opening remarks, New Jersey's flush with liquidity right now. So try to target that liquidity around some big things beyond workforce development. Innovation is important. Infrastructure is important. This is a state that kind of trades off its infrastructure. It's a through state. So making sure that the roads are continued to be invested in, the ports are invested in, the airport is invested in. Those are really important to keep the state well positioned economically. And then just lastly on innovation too, we have probably more engineers, I think, per capita in New Jersey, more STEM talent in the state. And so, funneling some R&D credits for investing in those areas and becoming really well known in the country, the way Massachusetts is known for certain things, life sciences now in Philadelphia region. New Jersey's right in the middle of that with all the talent to really step it up and take it to the next level. Sure. So, you can see a lot of the states in the kind of other regions of the country, particularly Mid-South and South, have really focused on lowering taxes, lowering regulations, business attraction, and they've had quite a bit of success. So a lot of Northeastern companies, when they think about expansion, they've got to put up a new plant. They look to kind of out of the region for those types of opportunities. Having said that, there are some Northeastern states. One of the states that our headquarters is in is Rhode Island, and they had a fairly successful governor there, Gina Raimondo, who's now down in Washington as the Commerce Secretary. But she understood the importance of having a strong business environment. She took on the public pension plans and put in a form of pension reform, cut some regulation, and really focused on trying to make Rhode Island a more attractive destination for companies, and had quite a bit of success with that. I was on an advisory board to the governor of a bunch of CEOs who focused on that. So I think it can be done. It's really just a question of will and priorities. Yeah. So I think, today in New Jersey, we're trying to do a lot of things in fairness and equity. There's a lot of programs that are important, but you have to find balance. Would be, I guess, my point of view on that, is to recognize that Rome's not built in a day. We have to make progress on some of those objectives, but maintain a strong business base and capitalize on all the great things that are in this state. So again, I look at the educated population and the strength in engineering and the great physical aspect, geography of New Jersey, with a different topography in the north and at the shore, and in South Jersey where there's a lot of farming. It's a magnificent state. We just need, I think, the leadership to really play to those strengths and convince the business folks that when you go for that next expansion, do it here. We'll make it more attractive. And that'll ultimately get the flywheel spinning, and then all the other objectives become easier if your economy's humming, as opposed to if it's moribund and it's ranked number 50 and you're seeing population leave or business leave, then it just becomes harder and harder to focus on those other objectives because the funding's not there. Do you have one more question? Yeah. Well, again, I think we're making a bet on ourselves by coming to this region. So there's clearly no shortage of banks in New York City that we'll go up against. There's no shortage of banks here in New Jersey. But I think it's just a very attractive market for us to get into and serve. And I think the foundation we have with investors in HSBC gives us that opportunity. And you'll notice us. So we've become the sponsor of the Giants and the Devils, and so we already have quite a bit of our branding around those. And by the way, Dom, since we took over, we have 2 really winning teams, which you haven't had for. But it's just coincidence, I'm sure. But in any case, I think you'll also just see us very active in communities, because what Citizens is about, our culture is focused on the 3 C's, which is taking great care of our customers, being a great place to work and build your career if you're a colleague, but then making the communities that we serve better places to work, live, and play in. And when I arrived at Citizens 9 years ago, we thought we were big community players, but we volunteered 50,000 hours and we had 500 people serving on nonprofit boards. They thought it was good, and I benchmarked it against other banks, and it really wasn't that good. So fast forward to today, we've just crossed 200,000 volunteer hours, so that's up 4-fold. We have over 1,200 people serving on nonprofit boards, which just shows the impact that we want to have in basically making New Jersey, taking it to the next level and keep making it a better place. One of the things that we really loved about investors is they share that same desire, and they were very active in their communities. So hopefully you'll see us as a good neighbor over time, and we'll all work for the greater good.
Absolutely. And he has officially thrown down the gauntlet, I will say. Thank you, Bruce.
Okay.